Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Sergeant Be Safe here, and I'm stuck in the office. I'm stuck. You want to know why? I'll be completing reports for stolen vehicles. Yeah, that's right, stolen vehicles. I tell people all the time to lock their doors and put away their valuables. However, this continues to happen. Do you know that about approximately 95% of all auto thefts can be prevented? Here, let's go for a walk and I'll show you a few examples. Example number 1. You go to the store and you leave your car running. Little do you know that Chance Wilder's on the prowl. He sees your car running with the door unlocked, gets in it,
and they're off! At the start.
Oh no!
Frustrating. Let's move on to example number 2. You're at home and the car's parked for the day. But you feel safe and secure and believe this could never happen to me. And there's Rob You Blind going from car to car. Just got caught though.
Poopa, be safe.
Hands up. You're coming with me.
Ooh.
People leave their car doors unlocked and believe it or not, their keys in them. Here's video footage of someone going onto someone's driveway and entering their car, and guess what? Stealing that too. Even if you don't keep your car key, don't keep your spouse's key in the vehicle either. Believe it or not, they park right beside you. So therefore, take the extra step, lock your vehicle, and take your keys inside. So here's a little bit of information for you. If your car is ever stolen, and then I find it and recover it, it's usually not in the same condition that it once was. It could have been involved in a motor vehicle accident because of joyriding, or just have more dents, scratches, and damage on it. You'll get an incident report and a tow bill. Your insurance company may cover the towing and recovering fee, but you could also have to come out of pocket with some extra expenses. So now let's move on to example number 3. Parking lots at major businesses are prime targets. Lock your doors, put valuables away, park in well-lit areas, and definitely do not, I cannot stress it any harder, leave your vehicle running in the parking lot. Because no matter how many times Rob You Blind and Wild Chance go to jail, they will always take advantage of a prime opportunity to take your valuables or steal your vehicle. Don't be an easy target. Hands up, you both are coming with me. Ooh. These are just a few examples of how you can protect yourself and be vigilant with your property. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Subscribe now.
start the show.
Now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Black and Blue. I am your host, your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite thinker, Coach Clee, coming at you. I got a special guest in the background, and I'm excited about the show that we have that we're going to be bringing forward to you. So make sure you guys stay tuned. We're going to be talking about some serious topics, some things, mental health, and fighting burnouts and things like that. If you guys haven't already heard who the guest is, you're in for a treat. But we got to take care of some housekeeping rules, and I appreciate you guys being available. This is going to be an interactive live. If you're not already aware, interactive as in we're streaming on 5 different platforms right now: 2 on Facebook, 1 on LinkedIn, and 2 on YouTube currently right now. So therefore, if you want to shout out, like I posted a few on the screen already, you got to put something in the comment section. Put your name and where you're from, and we'll give you that shout out. Good evening, Greg. Good evening, Jamal. Good evening, Shayla. See a couple of you guys on here. If you don't put something in the comment section, I can't see who's actually there. Therefore, like I said, it's interactive. If you have a question, make sure you put that in the comment section too, and we will address it as best as we can. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you guys are in for a treat because, like I said, we've been streaming Black and Blue for over a year now. We transitioned from the lab to now Black and Blue, where we interview law enforcement officials, first responders, anyone who works in the emergency services department, whether they're rookie, whether they're seasoned, or whether they're retired. And we talk about their experiences, we talk about their publications, we talk about their businesses they may have, they talk about their training, and we can all learn from them. I see Adam, thank you for tuning in. Please tag, like, and share. I'm sorry, not Adam, Alexander Lindsay. There we go. Family says hello. Tell everyone I said hello. Hope you guys are enjoying yourself. Thank you. But therefore, again, this is hosted by One Way Publishing. One Way Publishing is a sponsor. One Way Publishing is a publishing company. I wrote a couple books. I wrote 5 myself through the company itself. You see them back there. They also have other clients. One Way Publishing, their motto is they can turn a mere thought and turn it into a book that's bought. So if you're looking to talk about a biography, autobiography, fantasy book, chapter book, an explanation book, cookbook, whatever you may think of, One Way Publishing can get it done. So make sure, don't do it right now. Make sure you guys check out the website scrolling below, and it's also in the comment section. Give them a shout. If you're also looking to be a guest on the show, website scrolling below, and it's also in the comment section. But here's a commercial from One Way Publishing. Stand by. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Publishing. Have you ever wanted to explain something, tell a story, or leave a piece of you behind? Have you ever wanted to write your own book, but not specifically know how to do it? Well, get ready. One Way Publishing's here. We can turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. People need to learn from you. They need to hear that story. Kids need to read that book. Imagine if you wrote your own children's book and get to read it to your kids. Here at One Way Publishing, we can get your fiction, nonfiction, fantasy, instructional, what have you, done. All at a reasonable price and definitely a reasonable time frame. And if you don't believe me, ask Sergeant Be Safe. He's working on his right now. He's definitely writing the best chapter of his life. Make sure you check out his cartoon skits that air on the podcast Black and Blue.
As Sergeant Be Safe said, that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And that was One Way Publishing along with Sergeant Be Safe. Make sure you guys get the likes, give me some likes, give me some shout outs. Make sure you guys put some ones in the comment section. We're about to get into the meat and potatoes of why we're here. Got a special guest right now, Chris Chandler-Yates. And if you guys haven't already checked out his podcast or seen him on other podcasts, you're missing out. We're going to have a tremendous and wonderful and very eventful night tonight. Chris is a New Zealand police officer, was a New Zealand police officer, and he prides himself on having, a foundation where he can get, where he prides himself on having officers reach the 20-year plus mark and finding their why and making sure they engage in their why. He also has a podcast where it's called Fighting the Burnout, where he discusses his burnouts himself and how to help you get through your burnout as well. Make sure you guys check him out and check out his podcast. But without further ado, I'm going to bring him to the stage. Chris, are you there?
I am here. How's it going, Clay? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you're here. I know we've been working out scheduling arrangements for a while and going back and forth, and finally we're making this happen. Thank you for making yourself available to be here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for going back and forth with me as well. You got a few things coming up, so it was a bit of a up and down, but we got here. It's good.
Absolutely. And right before I ask you the first question on who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself, Sergeant Be Safe just wants to say something to you quick.
Hello, this is Sergeant Be Safe, and I want to welcome all you viewers and our very special guest to Black and Blue. So get your questions ready and enjoy the show.
Film Pack.
Subscribe now.
Film Pack.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Sergeant Be Safe has to get his 2 cents every now and then. So.
I love it.
Thank you. But without further ado, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm originally from, for those that don't know, I'm originally from California. So Redding, California, way up north. Try and kind of call ourselves not from California, but I left there when I was 13. My parents took my little brother and I, put us on a 40-foot catamaran, and we sailed halfway around the world and ended up here in New Zealand.
Wow.
So that was some good teenage years. So that took about 5 years. Got here just before I turned 18. Got residency, citizenship with my parents and that because they fell in love with the place. And so I was like, cool. Did some university stuff and, didn't know what I wanted to do, to be perfectly honest. And was going to go work on super yachts and that, and met my now wife, and then kind of was like, okay, well, I better get a real job. And not just sail around the world all the time. And law enforcement kind of fell in my lap. My brother-in-law actually said, hey, why don't we join the police together? We can, have fun. And I think Bad Boys 2 hadn't come out long before that. And I was like, that could be fun. And then my favorite movie at the time was SWAT as well. So I was like, well, that could be fun too. So I started kind of thinking about it. Still was on the sailing side, and then ended up going down to coming back to the US actually, because a job fell through that I got my wife on a super yacht, and it kind of fell through. And so we're like, had no jobs. I was like, I've got some money sitting in the US. Let's go back and show you where I'm from. We're in LA, and a passenger train and freight train collided with each other, and we drove past just shortly after it happened. And I sat and I was glued to the TV watching the breaking news. And we are staying with a friend of mine at the time, and I was like, how do I get down there? Like, I want to be helping down there. I was like, you reckon they'd let me help if I just turned up? I'm like, no, they would not. And and so I was like, okay, I need to be down there. So police was on my mind, so I started training the next day, got my eyes lasered. And that was the rest she wrote. 2 and a bit years later, I was in the police force.
Wow.
And so, so that's how I got into police force. That's how I got into that. But yeah, my past is all about growing up, sailing, doing adventurous stuff. And so policing kind of, fell into that adventure side. So that's a little bit about my upbringing and getting into the police force. But now, I know we'll go into it, so I'll wait for that opportunity. But after leaving the police force and burning out PTSD, I got into coaching. I got into helping people with personal training to start with fitness, because fitness, whether you know or not, it will save your life when it comes to it'll just clear your mind in that. And so I started training people with that. And now I run a few different programs and different things around helping people build their fitness to join, but also ultimately, like you said, helping people really find their purpose so that they don't burn out. I like to call it know those first day feelings, and have them after 20 years in. So that's a little bit about me. We'll go from there, I think.
Yeah, man, you gave us a lot, man. I'm kind of jealous just for the simple fact that I heard you got to sail around the world during your teen years and do those kinds of things. You're hearing that? That sounds like paradise. And then you come to it like, how did you become getting into law enforcement when you basically were just living in paradise? But
yeah. So yeah, no, it's a pretty interesting one. I mean, I had 500 dives under my belt by that point. I dove windjammers. I've done speared fish as big as me. Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was definitely a culture change coming back to like actually real life, and it took a few years to figure that one out. I'll tell you that much.
Gotcha. I believe that much. And so would you say that you got your burning desire when you moved in with friends in LA and you actually saw that accident and you, like, I need to be there. I need to do something about it. Was that when the switch went off in your head?
Yeah. So that's when the switch went off. The seed had been planted by my brother-in-law one night at his place at the time. And he was like, oh, we should join. I was like, oh yeah, I could look into that. Went to some seminars and talked to some cops and stuff and was about that. And then was kind of on the fence about it, really still didn't know what I wanted to do. And then when that happened, I saw the impact that they were making. I was like, I have to do this. And I was not a runner at the time. I did a lot of swimming, obviously growing up on a boat. And I was just like, I have to do this. So I running in the hills of freaking LA up, like a friend of ours that I was staying with had like one of those old school tree houses that were built back when LA was like founded. And built up a little bit bigger now, but yeah, so running through the hills the next day with like literally not running shoes on, like just that was a burning desire then. And I fought I sat on the wait list here in New Zealand to go to our police academy, or we call it college, for about a year and a bit. I sat and waited for a position to open and had to keep my fitness level up. That 1.5 mile run, I was doing it in 10 minutes, sub 10 minutes with a 10-kilo vest on, and there was a burning desire there where it was like, I'm not giving up on this. So yeah, it was there. That's when it happened.
That's a lot of heart and dedication. And you mentioned Bad Boys 2. There's a couple scenes, but I remember watching it too. And when they're in the car chase and they're going after the guys who commandeered the truck that was hauling other cars and they're releasing cars, I'm like, how cool would it be to be in a pursuit like that? I mean, theoretically.
yeah, and that's how I thought policing was, that and SWAT. I was like, and so my burning desire as well through that whole thing was, and why I trained so hard was, I was like, I want to join our version of SWAT team as soon as possible. Ended up not. I went down a different road, but I was like, that was my driving factor, and it was just like, because I was like, those guys make the biggest difference. That's where I have to be.
Gotcha. And so when you actually, I know you said it took a while to get on with New Zealand. And when you finally got on, do you have anyone that kind of took you under their wing or has been a mentor or influenced you to help you at least navigate you through the lifestyle or the department or the mindset then?
A little bit. I've got a guy who I'm still really good friends with. Actually, I met him when I was in the process. Long story, but I had a PlayStation that I bought off like our version of eBay, and it was a fraudulent one, and thought maybe it got delivered to a different address up the road. Walked up there and there was a police car sitting in the driveway, so I'm still good friends with him, and so he used to have me come down to the station, and he and I would talk on stuff. But yeah, I had him, and then I've had a few sergeants over my years in policing that were really good, that were always there for me. There's a senior sergeant that I had a few incidents happen that hit me hard, which I know we'll talk about. And yeah, she was really good. She's now an area commander for a district here in Auckland. So. But she was really good, but some stuff, but I kind of was a little bit of a lone soldier in some ways as well. I mean, there's some of my colleagues that I worked with that kind of were along with it, but it was more along the lines of, which in a way wasn't so great either. So, yeah. But no, so.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I understand how it's like as you're fighting that dog by yourself, you're kind of learning as you go. And you it basically with law enforcement, there's a lot of, you get training, but a lot of things that you learn, there's a lot of on the job training. Yeah.
And that's probably kind of how it was. There was some stuff. I mean, the team that I joined hadn't had a new cop in about 2.5 years at the time, where I was. So they were a very tight knit group, which I didn't feel like I fit straight into. Just before that, for a secondment, when I first started, I was at a different station, and there I felt pretty good. And actually, in hindsight, probably should have just gone back, like actually got transferred back to the initial one. Because I think policing could have been different, but hindsight's great, isn't it? Like,
I know. In that rearview mirror, I know.
yeah. So you learn from it, and so you hopefully don't make the same mistakes twice, or can teach somebody else on it. But yeah.
And that's why we coach have others learn from our mistakes or just guide them the right way. Absolutely.
Yep. Help prevent them from going through the same stuff that we did, so they can make their own mistakes in a different way further along.
Exactly. Yeah, they can create new mistakes.
Create new ones. Right. Yeah, hopefully have guidance along the way as well.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your current position and your current responsibilities. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but trying to give a little foundation before we actually jump into the actual causations of burnout.
Yeah. So what I do now is I've got my own business that's around. I've got two aspects of it. There is a portion where it's helping you build your physical and mental ability to be the best cop that you can be. So give you that foundation before you join, while you build your fitness up, create fitness into your habit. How many cops do we see out there that they pass all the fitness testing at academy or at college, and then they get out and they lose it? Like, they just stop training, and they, and then they become a liability actually for themselves, the community, and for their, department. And so helping them create that foundation, but also mentally teach them all the tools so they don't burn out. All the mistakes that I wish I had known before I joined. And so there's that aspect. And then I also run at the moment, just started running wellness training for the police departments. So actually teaching those tools, really lining in the purpose, really lining in the rules around it, knowing your needs, running off of what I call your police life pyramid. So you really, making sure you're taking care of yourself so you can take care of others the fullest, running that in departments. So I know we'll talk about that a little bit later, so stay tuned for that, around how that kind of works for departments. And that's kind of a new thing that I'm really excited and launching and working towards the next few months.
Gotcha. And I know, as you stated backstage, is your training or something that you have coming up, is that bringing you back to the States to conduct some sort of training or to have a seminar or something along those lines?
So that training that I was just talking about for departments on the 9th of March, I'm actually coming back to the U.S. I've decided my wife and I agreed that I'd come back for 3 months, kind of live semi off of what the rest of my business makes. I'll base myself out of Northern California. I'm running free training for departments. Okay. So if a department wants me to come to their training, all they have to do is pay for my expenses from Northern California. They pay for my expenses to come out. I'll run the training completely free, and then we'll talk about, if they think it's a good fit, how it can actually fit in the full spectrum program in the department, and how it can help reduce burnout, which then reduces PTSD, which then reduces the things that we're seeing, the use of force complaints, the community complaints, and it gets more interaction. They get back to that really enjoying the job. And when you enjoy the job, you'll do more, you'll give more, you impact more, and the department doesn't get sued. So it's kind of like one of the guys that I was talking to referred to it like an insurance policy. We're taking out an insurance policy so that we can prevent our cops from actually needing to claim and pay out on something that somebody does because they're burned out. And so that's the exciting news that I have coming up. It's I'm real excited about it. Got a few Aurora Police Department I'm running a training for, and talks with some guys in Phoenix. Okay. Anybody who's interested, just go to the website and you'll go to the How to Work With Me page, and you'll see it there.
Absolutely. And the website's scrolling below. It's also in the comments section, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So make sure you guys, not right now, but make sure you after the end of the live, check him out and see how he can help you and your department out. But stand by. We're going to have a word, starting to be safe interlude, and we're going to jump right back into this interview. All right. Stand by.
Excuse me, madam. You're standing still in a no parking zone. If you don't get a move on that body, I'll be forced to give you a ticket.
Hey, it's Sergeant Be Safe.
Danger! Danger!
Excuse me, ma'am. The sign says no parking.
I'm not parking. I'm just running into Dunkin' Buck to get my coffee.
You are parked. You're outside of your vehicle and you're illegally parked in a fire lane. Parking in a proper spot and taking a few extra steps is not going to make you late for work. Matter of fact, here comes the fire truck now and you're in the way. This is going to cause a problem. I may need to just have this vehicle towed so the fire department can get in here and deal with this emergency. If the sign says no parking, do as it says. Don't park there.
Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. It would be my fault if a tragedy happened. Thanks for not giving me a ticket, Sergeant Be Safe. Now I know for next time.
Well, just consider this your warning and definitely let this be the last time. I'm Sergeant Be Safe, and it may seem minor, but it's very important. Make sure you park legally. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Subscribe now.
And we are back, and that was Sergeant Be Safe talking about no parking in fire zones. But we're going to jump back into this interview with Chris Chandler-Yates. He's right here. We're going to discuss. We've been talking a little bit about his background, his company, what he's been doing, his how he became a police officer, things that led up to that, things that gave him the burning desire. But now, Chris, I want to talk about things that you've experienced on the job while being a police officer. Some things that may have given you PTSD, some things that brought you to actually being burnt out. And how long did this affect, and how did you know that you were burnt out?
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to come off the back of what Mr. Be Safe was like, and that little skip that you were just putting there. You know, when you run from the purpose and like actually yourself, and I'll talk about this leads into like my burnout and why I got burned out so quickly. When you're actually tapped into that, you're not wanting to give that ticket out. But when you're burned out, one sign of being burned out is when you're like, I don't really care. Here's your ticket. You're in no parking zone, and you're that cop that all of us don't like. That's one way to kind of tell that you're burned out. So I just want to drop that in before I kind of go into my stuff. So to rewind just a little bit as well, during my policing career, I did everything from frontline work. We've got one giant police force here, so it's quite easy to do different roles within it. You just apply for them. And so I did that. And then in my last 3.5 years, I did diplomatic protection. So I looked after prime minister, two prime ministers. When Biden came over as vice president, when Obama was president, I worked alongside the Secret Service, looking after the PM when they got together. I did a lot of that stuff. But that was towards the end, actually, after I was already burned out. I went to that role because I was searching for something new. I burned out, probably actually started burning out about 1.5 years into the job. If I'm honest with you. And the reason for that is we went to a domestic, and you know how that can be. Went to a domestic where two kids were having a fight. One of the kids lived behind the mother, having a fight, came into the house, trashed the house, did a whole bunch of different damage and that, then left. So we came, took statements and that, went to the son who didn't live behind the house because he wasn't there, went to the other son's place and found the kid that actually lives behind the mom there. And as I went to go arrest him, he went for the front door, haymakered my partner, who was a female. She'd been in about 7 years, and it was the last straw for her. Like, that was the straw on the camel's back, and she left the job.
Wow.
Because I didn't know the things that I know now, it sent me into a spiral of everything's bad. The guy ended up getting 6 months home detention at his uncle's house, could only leave if he was working with his uncle, which any cop out there knows what that means. He can pretty much do whatever he wants. $400 reparation. Wow. So I spiraled, and I took it to heart. I blamed myself. I did all these things because I didn't know what I know now, and I didn't have the mental fortitude of knowing why it was affecting me so much. And so I sat in that negative, dark place, which then kept spiraling me. And so I pulled myself back from things. Wasn't assertive. And then I ended up going to traffic. So our version of highway patrol. So to motorways for a year, felt really good. Then went back to the street. And this is where it really spiraled me. And this is kind of where I kind of started to recognize a little bit of it and sought some help. Went to 6 suicides in a matter of a few weeks.
Wow.
And did notification jobs for 3 of those. Some during the kind of while we were looking for the kid. One was a father and I and my partner went left, found the kid, had taken his own life, and I went with the father, had the radio, luckily the earpiece in, so the dad didn't hear it. Partner called it was a 10-0. Started walking back and had to tell the dad in the walkway on the path and just watching him collapse. Another one, really bad one, was lady's husband. They were going through a divorce and he took his own life.
Wow.
And so we're at the scene for the suicide, and it was on the shift over to night shift, and so we're on the twilight shift. And so we're like, oh, we'll do it on the way back. It's on the way there. We'll deal with it. It won't take long. We're there for about 4 hours dealing with a notification, trying to organize things. She couldn't even dial a telephone to call her friends to come over. And then the 16-year-old daughter found the suicide note on the computer.
Ooh, wow.
Started to blame herself. And by this point, I was so emotionally disconnected from everything because of the thing that happened to my partner and keep spiraling myself, that all I wanted to do, and in my head, I was like, I just want to give her a big hug, but I was like, I can't do that because it might look wrong. All the reasons of why I can't came through my head instead of why I should, so that I'm impacting her. The whole reason I joined the police, so I could impact. Felt like I wasn't impacting. And so that's where I started to spiral. And where I started, I didn't recognize it. My wife did, that I was burning out. She came to me after a dinner party, after I attacked her in the driveway for leaving a cake tin in the back of the car. Wow. I screamed at her. I yelled at her, was like, you're leaving the stuff in. You don't do anything wrong. Like, literally went and didn't think anything was wrong. Then we went to another party at her dad's place, and he was like, he said to her, what's going on with me? Because I said no words the whole night. Started so disconnected, was totally gone. And so she's like, what's going on? And I was like, no, nothing. I'm fine. How many times have we heard that one? I'm good. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with me. I help people that have things wrong with them. And yeah, so then I ended up talking with a colleague actually at work, and she was like, I was like, I got stuff going on with my wife, like we're not doing well. She's like, why don't you go to the welfare person? I was like, the who? And so she told me where it was, and I went down and talked to him, and she's like, and because I care so much about my wife, I was like, I need to talk to somebody. I need to kind of fix this. So we got some EAP, went to the police counselor. Really didn't help, to be perfectly honest. I thought it helped at the time a lot, but really the police counselor even just fed into me wanting to run away from everything and wanting to escape everything. And so I thought I dealt with all that, and then a position came up for diplomatic protection, which I was qualified for. And so I was like, oh, I'll go to that, get some new training, new fresh air. The department that I was in, like the station that I was in, was trying to move me around left, right, and center. I wasn't enjoying things. And I was at that stage where I felt like I wanted to bash somebody's head in. And that kind of leads us into what we were talking about in the back room, is that's where you get to a burnout. You'll start to do dumb things that is not you. And things like we've seen recently in the US happening and around the place, that's burnout. Like I look at that and I go, those guys are burned out. They didn't join the job for that. And if they did, then it's the vetting's fault that they didn't catch them. But so I went to diplomatic protection to get away from that, got shoulder tapped for a position on residential security, went there, and it made things worse, to be perfectly honest. In the beginning, it was good. New training, new environment, learning new things. So I was really focused on that. But then quite quickly, I became extremely paranoid.
Oh, really?
I went from watching watching what your stereotypical criminal looks like. And there is an image, everybody knows, and if you deny that there isn't, there's an image of what a typical criminal looks like, to watching them, to then watching everyone. I was in rooms with, Fortune 500 type people, and that with the prime minister, watching them going, who's the threat?
Right, exactly, yeah.
And so then I became extremely paranoid. So you add the burnout on top of the paranoia. My wife couldn't leave the house without me giving her some sort of lecture, watching her back. I don't remember doing it, but she tells me I did. So it's one of the side effects of burnout. You lose short-term memory loss. And so I was doing that. I was starting to not enjoy things. Everything was negative. I mean, the group that I was with, they were really good guys, but the bosses weren't all that great either. So I got really tied up in the bosses are horrible and it's all their fault, and everything that you're hearing around the world right now with a lot of stuff got so tied up with all of that as well.
Gotcha.
It got so bad, and I like to use this example. It got so bad that I was in Redding, California, 2015 going into 2016. And I was back there because my uncle owns climbing and rescue equipment. He makes harnesses and that. And he said he's got a booth at SHOT Show in Vegas. And so I was going with him and my dad, and I dropped my wife at the airport already, was driving to my best friend's house, my uncle's pickup truck. And I thought an early black 2000 Tahoe was following me to my friend's house. And I was so paranoid, I pulled over and forced it to pass me.
Wow.
That's how bad I got to, man. So that's where I got to. And then shortly after that, I mean, by that stage, I was like, any job besides policing, if somebody offers me a job at SHOT Show, I'm taking it. I don't care what my wife says, whatever. Like, didn't care about anybody besides myself and wanted to escape so badly. And then I came back, and it probably wasn't long after that I was at a party with a mutual friend of ours. My wife was at work at an event and away, and I found myself wanting to make a move onto a woman there. Like so much so that, you know, like when you start to, like when you're new, like when you're single and you're trying to, you know, date women and stuff, you're like, how do I like, I had all of that going through my head, and I caught myself. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
Who am I? Like, what the hell? My parents cheated on each other. I saw the destruction. I promised my wife I'd never be that person. I'm like, I'm that person. I didn't do it, but I'm that person. And I used to do dumb shit on my motorcycle. Like, I rode home that night and did dumb stuff on the way home, like so much so I didn't want to kill myself, but I would steps off of it.
Yeah, I got
so that's
what
burnout can get you to, and that's where I got to, and that's why I do what I do. I can't remember what your question was, but that's a little bit of the your answer. What burnout looks like for me.
Absolutely. And so I trust me, you answered it tenfold. And I know when we were backstage prior to the show starting, we kind of touched on a little bit of it. We kind of touched on the tip of the iceberg talking about it, where we were talking. I remember when I came on, I'm giving my example, where a lot of the older guys, they'd have like 2 or 3 years left, and you could tell they were burnt out. They were just going to ride off their last couple of years and just be done. And then as you're new and you come into the job, you're like, this is the greatest job ever. I can't believe we get paid to do this stuff. I remember like actually being upset to have days off. And then like, I'll do this every day. I'll come in any shift. You start reading reports from the shifts when you were off, and you're like, man, these guys they're living the dream. I wish I was there for this one and that one. And the older guys are like, yeah, whatever. I can't wait to ride off into the sunset. And they only had 2 or 3 years left. I watched as it turned to about maybe 15. You had 15 years in, and you can start seeing the burnout then. Now, at least with me, I've seen it to where it's like 5 to 7 years where the burnout's starting to take hold. And like you doing the business, you've seen it even shorter than that.
Yeah. So I've seen it as short as like under 2 years. Like people aren't even done with their training and they're leaving. You know, off the back of the thing that I didn't finish with that story on was, so I went home, and when my wife got home, I went to her and I want a divorce. I'm done. Wow. I don't want to be with you anymore. I want a divorce. And she was like, let's go to counseling one more time, because we'd been together 12 years by that point. 10 years by that point. We'd been together, married for like 7. And I probably got those numbers wrong. But anyways, she'll forgive me. but so we went to counseling, and this counselor saved my life. She identified I was burned out. She's like, your tank is so empty, and every time you go to work, it drains it below empty again. No matter what you're doing to fill it back up, you need to take a break. So I did. It took a while to kind of get everybody on board with it, but it was like, I'm taking a break, whether you like it or not. And I came back to the U.S. and I rode a motorcycle for 3 months around the U.S., the Southwest, camping, forcing myself, and this is the difference between it just being a holiday, forcing myself to interact and talk with people.
Wow.
Because as cops, we know, especially the burned out ones, do not interact with people outside of work anymore. So I was forcing myself, and the very first time I actually interacted with somebody was another guy on a motorcycle, younger kid at a gas station in the middle of freaking nowhere, Nevada. And I was like, I hopped on the bike and I put my helmet on. I was like, Chris, what the hell are you here for? You wanted to go say hi to that guy. Go say hi to him.
Right.
And so I took my helmet back off, hopped back off, walked up to him, was like, hey, how's it going? You know, where are you off to? I see it looks like you're traveling and stuff around as well. Like, what are you up to? And that was the start of that change. And so I wanted to bring that up because, like you said, we see cops that are so cynical 15 years in. I've seen them as low as 2, as you know, the common is about 5 years at the moment. Wow. And I remember also being at some arches and I talked to a guy who was ex-LA sheriff helicopter pilot and had been a cop for a long time before he was a helicopter pilot. And I remember walking away from the conversation with him going, if I go back to law enforcement, I don't want to be that guy. I was like, and he had retired. And I was like, no, I'm never going to become that guy. And so I never went back to law enforcement, but that's what I help prevent is people from becoming that guy. And so, yeah, no, it is. It's one of those things that it's we're seeing it more and more, faster and faster, especially with the current messaging that's getting thrown in our faces on cell phones and media and social media. And it's all that stuff. You know, we were talking about, you know, cops getting shot and cops doing dumb stuff. You're seeing more and more of it. You're seeing more cops taking their own lives as well. And I'm sad to say it. You're going to see it. It's going to turn worse. It's going to get even worse before it gets better.
Wow.
Because,
I'm sorry, but yeah,
that's what my feeling is. It's going to get worse before it gets better because there's still a lot of departments that are not wanting to make a difference. They're talking about it, but they're not doing it.
The action hasn't been taken, right?
Yeah.
And dealing with cops itself, just let alone take away from your aspect of being burnt out. Just cops, we save the day. We love to help. We're the fixers. We don't need to be fixed, or so the mentality is that's instilled in us. And then after a while, you like you said, you just don't talk. You just take it in. You self-absorb, and it's hard to open up. I know. But in a previous marriage or so, I've gone to marriage counseling, and I found it very difficult because things that I deal with at work, I'm putting my experiences out, things that I would deal with at work, the counselor couldn't relate to because the counselor was not a first responder, an emergency worker. When you deal in first response and emergency, you see so many different highs. You get called because a cat stuck into a tree, and then you get 5 minutes later, you're going to a suicide. 2 hours from there, you may go to someone who overdosed and you bring him back to life. Next thing you know, you may go to someone who fell down the steps and you're helping EMS. When you go to a traffic stop and you think that everything's going to be fine, and they're upset that you gave them a ticket, and that's the thing that just totally sets you off. And so many things, but when you want to express this to people, but you cannot express it because no one else lives this life except other first responders. And then you start opening up to first responders, but of course we're very cynical and we joke around a lot to where we mean well, but the information and the shared advice isn't always the best if you don't go to the right individual. You can see you see similarities with that and individuals that you deal with or during your business. Do you see that being the norm?
Yeah, it is, and it normally isn't in the beginning. It's not in the beginning. It's because of the culture that we then ingrain in it. Like I remember being on diplomatic protection, and all the guys would sit with their back to the wall and wouldn't sit with their back to the door.
Wow!
And I've never been told that. And I was in the police 5 years by this point, 6 years by this point when they said it. They're like, "Oh no!" And it started to come up in conversation, and so I never became that cop. This was like I still to this day, and so I have this conversation with cops, and it's that same thing. It's been trained into us that we shouldn't talk. It's been trained into us that we can't trust people. It's been trained into us. Yes, and then it's where you look, you'll see. And you probably know this, Clay, you're a coach as well. Where you look, you see. If you start to look for your car and you start to get excited about the car that you have, all of a sudden everybody has that car and you're like, where the hell did all these cars come from? It's not because there's all of a sudden more on the road. It's because your mind is now looking for it. So if you're looking for threats all the time and you're never shutting that off consciously, you're always going to look for threats. So that counselor, that psychologist, no, they don't get us. And so that's your excuse on why you shouldn't talk. And now a lot of times they don't get you, but you also see what you want to see. But sometimes actually having somebody who doesn't get you is actually best because they aren't tainted like you.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
But you think about a coach. I know you used to coach football.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have been the best football. Like you look at some of the coaches from the NFL. They weren't the best football players.
Right.
But they can coach football really well. Hell,
Absolutely.
some of them maybe never even played football.
Yeah.
But they're some of the best football coaches because they can see things with a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes that's actually good. Yes, we can relate. You'll open up faster with somebody who you actually understand and you relate. But yeah, that whole we are taught certain things, and until we start to shift that mindset even within the police of everybody is bad and they're all out to get us, and we start to talk about the fact that actually no, we deal with the bottom 2 to 10% of society, and in the US there's 370 million people. That's a very small fish in the pond of the amount of people that are actually bad. And again, you can see what you want to see. Like, it's just like, you can see an opportunity as an opportunity, or you can see it as something that's going to slow you down and stop you. Depends on how you look at it. But yes, we're seeing it faster and faster because messaging as well. When you have messaging everywhere, you have to be. I remember Tony Robbins said this during COVID, and I'm a huge fan of his and follow a lot of his stuff. He said this in the very beginning when the media was really harping on a lot about his stuff, and I think it might have been just around the George Floyd thing, and that we are the gatekeepers of our own mind. Be very vigilant on what you let into it.
Absolutely, yeah. I like that.
And so, yeah, it's one of those things that I've reminded myself of that quite a lot, because there's been times where with COVID, especially down here, we had some things go, and I found myself wanting to throw the remote at the TV at press conferences, and I was like, oh, I'm not listening to that message now, am I?
That's a good point. I know I listened to a lot of Earl Nightingale quotes before, and that sounds very similar to Earl Nightingale quotes. But when you hear good training, you take what you get. Earl Nightingale, the mind is like a field, and whatever you plant in there is going to grow. So if you want to grow roses or wheat, you plant those seeds, nurture it, and it'll start producing products, the positive products. But if you want to, plant nightshade, which is a deadly poison, then it'll still produce that too, but it just becomes poison. So it's all in what you plant in your head itself. I like that.
And then I take it one step further with what I do, all about the prevention side of stuff. So I've always wanted to not be the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff and just turn up when things are bad. I've wanted to educate as well during that. And that's what I used to, when I was at the peak of loving what I did, that's what I would do. Guys would give me shit because I'd sit at the scene and talk to the people and have conversations with the guy in the back seat while he's fucking screaming at me. They're like, what the hell are you doing? There's no point. But it's all about helping that prevention, helping that dropping those seeds. And so I take it, like your analogy around, what you plant in the field is what you get. Now imagine if you planted that on crap soil versus having good soil. Yeah. And my thing is let's give you some of that. I'm going to use your analogy. Let's use some of that. Let's create some really good soil before you're a cop or in the beginning of your career, so that as you plant those seeds, you can identify, oh, yeah, that nightshade's there, or that weed has come out of my soil. I need to pluck that weed out. I need to put some better soil in so that my roses actually grow a lot better, faster, and stronger.
Good point. I like that. So let's just say a cop is watching, or someone in law enforcement, a first responder is watching, and they're experiencing some sort of mental health PTSD. They're burning out. They may understand it. They may know it now, or they're kind of like, oh, I don't know, maybe not. And they would reach out to you. How would you, without giving all the nuts and bolts, how would you assist that person to at least get to, like you said, you pride yourself on your goal, to turning this into a 20-year career and helping them find their why?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would say is good on you. Good on you for reaching out, because so many people are exactly where I was, and they just go, no, I'm not. There's nothing wrong with me. Right. So first off, I'd say that. The second thing that I get people to do really quickly, really easy, is just start to do, either you can call it a gratitude journal, but I more call it start to find the positives out of things. Start to look for the positives. Start to look for the light in the darkness. And a real easy way that I get people to actually do this is I have people close their eyes. and I can tell if they're starting to burn out or not. Close your eye, and if you see mostly darkness, or you see all the light flickering, when you close your eyes, if you look for it, you can see all the light flickering. That if you see mostly, if you just go, oh, everything's dark, there is no lightness, you're probably burning out.
Oh.
Because all of a sudden you're just seeing darkness of everything. Whereas if you're like, oh yeah, no, I see darkness, but there's a little bit of flickering in that, and that, cool, you're actually probably not doing too bad. If your eyes go straight to, oh, I see all the sparkles, I see all the lightness, then you're actually probably doing really well. But to shift that really quickly is start looking for positives. Every situation has a positive in it. You might not see it right now. You might not see it for another 10 years. But I can tell you this, if I didn't burn out, if I didn't have all the things that I'm actually thankful for, all the pain that I actually created for people, I would not be standing here with you right now, Clay.
Right, understand.
I don't know where I'd be, but I wouldn't be right here. And I'm grateful for all the pain that I had, because I wouldn't be making the impact that I am now. So look just for those little positives, that little extra thing that you said, that fact that, oh, you saw a spark happen in that offender's eyes, or, oh, I got to take that person away from that domestic, and so that person can kind of have at least have a calm, safe evening, or a couple hours, or 5 minutes, whatever ends up happening. But as police, we can get really wrapped up, and I've done it. I was there for a long time, really wrapped up in just seeing all the negatives of, oh my God, I took that person to jail for a fines warrant and for like 50 grand, and I had this happen. $50,000 fines warrant, took them in, and they literally let him out 5 minutes later with nothing different. And I was like, what the hell is the point? And you hear that all the time. It might be they lock them up, and it's like a revolving door is the thing that I've been hearing a lot lately. I'm like, yeah, cool. But guess what? You took them off the street for 5 minutes. You said 3 words, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 2 weeks. It will plant and it'll make a difference. Focus, find the positive. And that's the start. And then there's obviously the deeper stuff, getting the coaching for myself or from yourself, or because we can see things differently instead of trying to figure it out in your own head. But the first one would be just start writing down the positives of the day.
Get your mind focusing on the positive. I like that as well.
Because again, like I said about the cars, where you look, you're going to get. So if you start to focus on the positive, it's the same thing. You might have 2 guys that started in the force at the same time, and they've gone along, and one guy is like cynical, nasty, the cop that none of us want to become, and the other guy is still loving the job like it was day one. It's not that they have, yes, they might have different experiences before, but it's not that they've seen different things, that they've done different things. It's that they've looked at it differently.
Gotcha. You're hearing this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope you guys are taking notes, because he's dropping pearls. He's dropping wisdom right now. And we're going to come back a little bit more of this interview. Got to give Sergeant Be Safe his time to shine. And I hope you guys like this commercial coming up. Stand by.
Look at JD sitting there, thinking that he's the man. Not knowing Rob Your Blind's right there, right around the corner.
Love is in the air, I put on a gas mask.
Hello. JD's just sitting there, lost in love, not even knowing he sat his cell phone down.
I can't believe it.
And just like that,
it's all mine.
And with his cell phone, he has access to everything.
It's too easy.
Looks like he gave it to Chance Wilder to do some hacking.
My plan is complete. I'll have it all.
And with your cell phone, he'll have your email, bank account information.
If you could just confirm your name and address.
Sergeant Be Safe, is that you?
Hi, JD. How are you?
I really need your help.
Okay, what happened? How can I help?
I laid my cell phone down and Rob You Blind stole it.
Oh yeah, I heard you were lost in love at that Valentine's Day gala.
Chance Wilder used the information to steal my identity.
Well, that's unfortunate. Did you put a lock on all your personal information? If not, I suggest you do that now, and I'll do what I can.
Can you get it back?
I promise you I will do my best. Identity theft is something that is constantly on the rise. Make sure you protect yourself in all ways possible. Hey, get your hands up. You both are coming with me. You're under arrest for identity theft. Ooh. I'm Sergeant Be Safe. That's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Subscribe now.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed that commercial. The individual who did that, that was the voice of that commercial. It had a lot of fun being the player that he was, surrounded by all those women. But we're back in the middle of the interview, having a conversation. We've been talking about signs of burnout. We've been talking about how to get through burnout, PTSD, mental health, different things while dealing with the job of being first responder. We got Chris Chandler-Yates discussing his experiences with burnout and things along those lines, and how he helps people get through it. As we've been talking through this, we know we talked about the COVID and things like that, how things seem like the world definitely has changed since then. Police work has definitely changed since then, where it seems like everything else has sped up negatively. This job is very cyclic, where we're on top sometimes and everyone loves us and, hey, thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you do. Most times, at least from my experiences in the career, we're somewhere right in the middle, where people appreciate us, but you still have those that don't like, but it's still pretty fluid. Lately, it seems like it's at the very bottom, where we're dealing with constant negativity from the media. So much things are being put on us, forcing us to see so many different things and feel a certain way. And it affects a lot the newer crop of high school kids that are soon to be graduating, college kids that are coming out, and people who are young adults who are getting out of the military. Those that may be watching, or those that may be watching the replay, what would your advice to them be if they do want to get into a career of law enforcement, but they're hearing and seeing a bunch of negativity, but I still want to be of service? What would you say to them?
I'd say know your purpose. Like, know your purpose. I hear a lot of people, and this is one of the key big things that I do with people. And if you're taking notes, get ready to take some notes, because I'm going to drop some real how to actually do this.
There we go.
Really, if you know your purpose and you know who you are, especially as youngins. I know you joined at 24 into law enforcement. You're in the military before that. I was joining law enforcement about 24 as well, as when I finally got in. So this is the one thing that I wish when I learned it a few years ago, I was like, okay, and then I've implemented it and made it my own and tweaked it around and actually developed it more. But knowing that why, knowing that purpose, beyond what Simon Sinek says, he does it a really good job. There's other ones, but it's a 7-step process. Well, really a few more than that with a few things, but so mine, for example, and I've turned it into a mission statement, and we all have this from childhood. A lot of people relate it to family. They go, it's so I can keep a roof over my head, my family's head. It's for my kids. It's so I can help people is a big one that you hear about with police, saying help people, help the community. So I can stop trauma. A lot of the people that I've trained, that I've coached, their first why is I want to stop whatever traumatic thing happened to them. I want to stop it from happening with other people. All great things, but they're only going to last for so long. And as soon as you recognize, hey, wait a second, I can't help everybody in that aspect, you start to get disheartened. That negativity can start to creep in a lot easier, especially with, like you said, media, everything kind of coming around. Mine is I help myself and others truly see ourselves, so we create the best version of ourselves. That is what I live by. Another level of that is my thing is I create less pain for myself and others. You can now see why when my partner got assaulted, it hit me so hard, because it was like I didn't stop pain for somebody. And that all stems from my childhood, and knowing where it kind of comes from also helps. Your why and purpose comes from when you were a kid. It started then and has been reinforced over the years, and it's normally from the negative emotion, the negative leading emotion that you run from. So what I do is I have people go through a 7-step process, and I'll tell you how to do it really quickly right now. You can also find how to do it in my book. I've got a little workshop guide book that I'm happy for people to go download as well. And so what you do is you first ask yourself, what's important? What is important to me about becoming successful? Or you can change the successful, if you want to being a cop.
Gotcha.
What is important to me about becoming a police officer? Answer it in a short thing. Then start asking yourself why that's important. And the answer, ask yourself, why is that important? Why is that important? Why is that important? And you'll get to probably about level 4. And then you need to ask yourself, what emotion is attached to this? What's the leading emotion, leading negative emotion that's attached to this? And then you go back into the past. You go back to your kid. You go back to your childhood where that emotion started. And in the book, I walk you through a process. As a coach, I walk you through really deeply, and we really hone into it.
Gotcha.
And then you ask that younger self, why is it important for whatever that was before? You ask that younger self, not your adult self, because you have all these stories and experiences and, traumas that have happened over the years. But you ask that younger self, and that younger self should be pre-7. You ask that younger self, why is it important for me, X, Y, and Z, whatever that previous answer was. And you keep asking yourself that until you feel like, holy crap, that hit, like, wow, that is my life.
Wow.
Like, that is what leads me. Like, mine is actually being seen. So mine comes from, I want to be seen. That's why I love doing podcasts. I love being on video. You follow my social media over at Chandler-Yates. You'll see videos is my thing. I talk to the camera. I give tips every single day, or most days. And so I do a lot of that stuff because I like to be seen. Now, that can be a negative or a positive, just like anything. For a long time in my life, it was a negative because I'd always go over the top, and then I'd feel like I'm being judged because it's like, oh, okay, well, wait a second. If I'm not being seen, then people are judging me and they're not seeing me the way that I want to see it. And so you can run from the negative side. Just like a hammer, it can build a house or it can kill a person. Anything can have two sides. So it's then shifting it into that mission statement. And that would be the number one thing. Know that and then lead from it. I know you and I had a conversation before in the back room around like what's next for you after retirement or for the next 5 to 7 years kind of thing up until retirement. And it's like, if you have that and you have all those levels, then you go, okay, cool. Well, what things are in policing that I can actually go into that meet all of this? Oh, cool. Sweet. So it's SWAT team. Perfect. It ticks all these boxes, and you can ask questions of people that are there of how it ticks that box. If it doesn't tick at least 80% of them, don't go do them.
Right.
Because if it doesn't, then you're going to feel disheartened really quickly. So that would be my number one thing for those that are wanting to get into the profession that I wish somebody had trained me. It's one of the biggest things that I take, and that's part of the training that I'm running around the U.S., is taking departments and current officers through that so then they can go, okay, cool. This is why I get up every day. It's not for the badge. It's not for the power. It's not for the helping people. It's because I want to help people actually see themselves. Like that would be mine. Or I want to help people create less pain in their lives. Okay, cool. But also, most importantly, how are you doing it for yourself?
Right.
Because if you feel empty, then you're not meeting your purpose for yourself as well.
Yep. And Jamon, I like that process. Because I'm in the process of knowing your purpose, and you learn who you are.
Yes. You learn who you truly are, and then that way you can actually bring yourself to the job instead of you trying to bring this image of a cop. How many cops do we know that are like, you're like, you know them off duty and on, you're like, you're totally like, what is going on here? It's because they're not being able to, trying to bring this image that they think. That's what I did. I thought I needed to be Will Smith in Bad Boys in order to, or I needed to be, one of the guys from the SWAT movie. And that was because, and so you're fighting, you're draining that energy out of yourself every single day. And when you drain that energy out of yourself every single day, well, guess what? You're going to get burned out energetically, plus physically with the extra work and that. But yeah, know your purpose, man. That way you bring yourself, and the job will serve you every day instead of you feeling like you're serving it. Like we're hearing everywhere on social media, the bosses don't care about all. That's the job. That's you serving the job. It's not it serving you.
Right. Good point. I hope you guys did take notes, but I'm going to ask a follow-up question, a caveat to the first part that as we talked about those applicants who wanted to apply. Let's flip it and talk about veterans. who are seasoned veterans who've been doing the quiet quitting or just burnt out in the role itself. They still are on the job, but it just doesn't have that luster anymore. And you somewhat answered it, but how if someone would to come to you now saying they've got 12, 18 years on the job now, they're not enjoying themselves, they're not the job is, they get up, they go to the job, they come home, they do whatever in between time. They're totally recognize that they're burnt out and they admit it, but they don't know where to go from there. What kind of advice would you give them?
Start taking care of yourself. Start taking care of yourself. And here's another little nugget you'll find in the book as well, which I'll give you the link in a minute so you can go have a look and download it. There's the life pyramid, the police life pyramid, or just life pyramid, I call it. And there's an external part of it, but the layers within it, first layer, the foundation, is yourself.
Yep.
And when you know your purpose and you go through the purpose process, then you can actually find what fills you up the fastest and easiest, because it serves that purpose. But most importantly, look after yourself. Do things, have things momentarily, have things daily, have things weekly, have things monthly, and have things yearly. Most people, how often do we hear cops go, wow, I can't wait for that holiday?
Yeah.
If you're waiting for the holiday, you're going to burn yourself out, because you can go on your holiday and you can come back and be like, man, I need another holiday.
I got to wait that much longer.
Yeah. And so really learn to take care of yourself, not from a place of being selfish, but being selfless, because once your tank is full, then you can actually start to fill into your relationship tank, your intimate relationship tank. Then from there, you can then fill into your children's tank. So taking care of them, being present with them. From there, then it's everybody else that's a relationship or family that doesn't have to be blood, but it can't, like, it's whoever you classify as it. I've got friends that I classify as family, and so they fall into that. And then the tip. And if you look at a pyramid, the top is like the smallest little bit. That's working every other motherfucker. And how many of us, especially as cops, try and drive that tip of the pyramid into the ground so the pyramid stays stable?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so it's actually looking at it that way, going, okay, cool. Am I giving everything to work? Am I wanting to be there on my days off? Am I doing it all that? And I feel like I'm just getting sucked by it. And that is another way. It's a second tool on how to do it. But for veterans, is normally a lot of times what I see is that they are not putting boundaries in, and they are doing everything for everybody else. I used to do it as well. I'd go to the shooting range and call it me time, but it was, if I'm honest, it was a byproduct was me, and the primary thing was so that I'm better at work.
Right. Makes sense.
It could have been a me thing if I shifted the focus on it. And the intent of it was just for me, and I didn't think about, work with this, that, while I'm there. I just was there to have fun and be with the guys and have a laugh and all that. That would have been me time. But every time I walked into the thing, it's like, okay, cool. How can I actually set things in place for work? Do scenarios that are based towards work, not just go and have fun shooting 3-gun.
Yeah. Different
so
mindset.
Really have those intentional things that are for you, then have the intentional things that are for your relationship, intentional things for your kids, intentional things for your family.
Yep.
And work, you're always going to have intentional things that are, because we put so much priority on it, and we need to half the time.
Yep. And like Shayla said, boundaries are so important. Absolutely.
Yep, they are. Yep. And so many cops do not have them.
I believe that. And so without having boundaries, then you're like you said, you're willing to accept a lot, and a lot of things get dumped in your general vicinity as well.
Yep, they do. I had a client who came to me. She joined my police fitness prep program. So to build her fitness back up, she was on maternity leave. Had her baby. When she went on maternity leave, she's like, I don't know if I want to go back to the place. She was about 10 years in.
Okay.
And she's like, I don't know if I actually want to go back in that. And then her baby was born, and she was like, what would she be? She would have been about 3 months from going back to work. And she came to me. She came into my 12-week fitness prep program to build her fitness back up, to pass the fitness, like the obstacle course, to be able to get back street bound that you have to here. By the end of it, she's like, I'm excited to go back to work.
Oh, good.
She's like, I'm loving going. She's like, I'm excited to bring all these tools back to the guys that I'm working with. And she's in one of the stations that she's in. It's kind of, the morale has been known to be one of the lowest in the country. And she's like, I'm excited to go back. And I still touch base with her from time to time. She's like, nah, absolutely loving it. Things are going great. Like, I'm on top of the world. Those first day feelings are back.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
That's the potential of again, knowing that purpose, having those boundaries, but then all the other stuff as well, obviously.
Gotcha. I like that, man. Chasing the dragon to get it back again. Those first day feelings. I know a lot of cops say it's the honeymoon feeling, but I mean, you're making it. You're making cops believe and actually live to have the honeymoon feeling last a good time of the career. I don't want to say, but you get it in the beginning. It may dissipate, but you've seen it actually come back.
Yeah. Definitely have. I'll tell you the link to get to the book. So it's the website that you see going along the bottom, createfromwhy.com, and then it's /book, BOOK. And you go there and you can download it. It's a free copy. It's 52 pages long, so it's nice and short. I made it for law enforcement, so there's no fluff about it. It's literally let's get to the point. Because I know the cops don't want to fluff around. They want, like, if they're going to read, they want to get to the point. If you're anything like me, it's like, let's get to the point. I just want the nuts and bolts right now. And so there's that. You can get that there. But it's, you think about your relationship, and I feel like law enforcement or a job is just like a relationship. The beginning, it's amazing. Honeymoon period. Oh my God, you can't keep your hands off of each other. Like, you just like all over each other all the time. And people are like, PDA, like, knock it off already. We have the same thing in law enforcement. And so we're like, yeah, it's like, oh my God, like, this is amazing. This is so much fun. And then it starts to peel off. The reason it starts to peel off is because we stop putting work into why it is actually fun. Just like a relationship. If you stop putting work into your relationship, the reason my wife and I are still more madly in love with each other now than we were on day one is because we put a fuck ton of work into it.
Right.
We have communication. We talk about it. Same thing with law enforcement. If you don't put it into it, you will end up that cop that we've talked about that you don't want to become.
Gotcha. A lot of good points, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Stand by. We got Sergeant Be Safe, and we're coming right back. No, Sergeant Be Safe has to take over every once in a while.
Hey, he's got to be seen, eh?
He pays the bills.
There we go.
Run up in your grip like my name was Search Warrant.
Hey guys, I just got this vape from Treacherous Tony. It tastes pretty nasty, but I look cool with it, right? You guys should give it a try. Be cool like me.
Nah, you look pretty stupid. And if you get caught with that thing, you're gonna be in big trouble. Besides, I heard Treacherous Tony is that lame guy who likes to come around and hang around little kids. If you're hanging with him, you must be lame too. Come on, guys, let's get out of here before we get in trouble like Cooper too.
Oh no, Sergeant, be safe.
You kids get out of here. Cooper, tell me where you got that from.
I won't snitch.
I don't see what's so funny. Vape pens like that can lead to harder drugs and cause more problems for you. They're not appropriate for little kids such as yourself. So I suggest you do the right thing and tell me who you got it from.
Treacherous Tony gave it to me.
Tristan, I want you to take me there now. Are you?
Yes, I'm Treacherous Tony. What do you want?
Do you have a card? And why are you selling this to kids?
Yeah, I got a medical marijuana card. I don't sell it to kids. I give it to them.
You give it to them? What kind of an adult are you?
It's a vape pen. What's the big deal?
Are you kidding me? The big deal?
Get out of here, Sergeant No Safe.
Sometimes I just wanna... Yep, I think I will.
All right. I give up. I won't do it again.
That's right, you won't. You're off to jail. Put your hands up and come with me. Remember, kids, what's made for adults aren't suitable for kids. Those vape pens may look cool, but they are not good for you. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Oh no! Sergeant, be safe!
Subscribe now.
right. And there we have Sergeant Be Safe right there. I have a lot of fun making those cartoons. I hope you guys enjoy them. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. Teach you some valuable lessons, and we kind of stretch it a little bit. Got to use your imagination. Things don't always go the same way they do in real life as they do on Sergeant Be Safe. However, you got to have fun. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back. Chris, we had a tremendous interview. I learned a lot of things. We discussed a lot of things. Through the course of the conversation, I may have forgotten to ask some questions, or I may have jogged your memory and things that you wanted to touch upon. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss right now? The floor is yours.
No, I just want to say to everybody, go have a look at the website. If there's anything that you are, struggling with or need help with, there's a contact form there. You can reach out to me. Always happy to help. But I also want to say to all the law enforcement, first responders, emergency services people, keep doing what you're doing. You are needed. Without you guys, the world goes to anarchy. So thank you very much. And just stay vigilant, both in yourself and out on the street. And make sure you have lots of fun. It got brought up to me this weekend. A friend of mine was like, "Oh, don't see much fun coming out of your social media." I was like, "Oh, obviously there isn't, but I'm having lots of fun." So just get out there, have fun, and enjoy yourself. It's the best job in the world. Yes, it can be the hardest, but keep going after it because we need you.
Absolutely. There we go. Good tips. Good interview. Chris, thank you for making yourself available for the platform. I appreciate you blessing the platform. I'm actually kind of nervous, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys check his podcast out this weekend coming up. Whenever he posts the show, I'm not going to give the date or I don't want to give too much away because it's not my platform to actually give that information. But I will be on the opposite end of the microphone, which is not a very comfortable seat. But sometimes you got to get out your comfort zone. So it'll be his turn to kind of boom, 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 boom on me. But it'll be a lot of fun. So make sure you check his podcast out. Fighting the burnout as well. We're going to enjoy ourselves there too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Clay. Fight the burnout. It's going to be fun having you on there. And thanks again for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been great to meet you, get to know you a little bit. And yeah, we'll ask you some of the hard questions here.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. We're going to have fun, though. We definitely are. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. This is Black and Blue, where we go live weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with law enforcement officials and first responders all over the world, where we discuss their businesses, their publications, their trainings, things along those lines, whether they're rookie, seasoned, or veteran, or retired, and we talk about their experiences. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys tune in next week. We got a special guest coming. Not going to say who they are because I want you guys to tune in and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. But we're going to take you out right now. Have a good night. We love you. 10-4, over and out.
Hey, how you guys doing? This is Sergeant Be Safe, and I'm back in the office again. I know the brand new year has already started, and we're well into 2023. And guess what? It will soon be getting warm outside, and you'll be wanting to do outdoor activities. Be mindful of your surroundings and the company you keep. And if you have to go out by yourself, always keep a vigilant eye. I want you guys to remain safe. Here, I'll give you a scenario. This good citizen decided to take advantage of the warm weather and went for a jog.
Look at this guy not paying attention, looking like a straight victim.
And here comes treacherous Tony on the prowl. Fortunately, I have with me Captain Chaos and his K9 Kraken.
This is your captain speaking.
And we'll work together to apprehend treacherous Tony before he does something dangerous. Put him up, treacherous Tony. You're coming with me.
All right. I give up. I won't do it again.
Listen to Sergeant Be Safe. He gives the best safety tips.
Hey, thank you very much. Take it from Captain Chaos and me. I'm Sergeant Be Safe. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Subscribe now.